can go wrong is that, okay, yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Borough of Englewood Cliffs Mayor and Council Caucus Meeting on March 8th, 2017 at 6:31 p.m. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Kranjak,
Here.
Councilperson Zaversa, E. Park, O. Here. McMorrow,
Here.
N. Park,
Here.
Wu.
Here.
Borough Attorney is not present yet. Superintendent of DPW,
Here.
Borough Administrator,
Here.
and Clerk.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. Have a motion to open the meeting up to public comment, please.
So moved.
Okay.
In favor? Aye. Okay, does anyone from the public wishes to be heard? I see two of you and one member of the press here, so just go up to the microphone, state your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Dave DiGregorio, is this working? I will turn it on. Thank you. Jeff, 1-2, that seems to work. Dave DiGregorio, 165 Charlotte Place, Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. I'd like to comment on the field and what is being planned for the field. Maybe ask a question. Has anything been decided yet, or not? What do you feel?
Nothing's been decided.
Nothing's been decided. Okay. I would highly recommend that we. Well, I'd like.
I'm going to be reporting in our meeting with the school. You know. So just to let you know.
Okay. All right.
In regards to.
Come in. Come on in.
It's fine.
That's okay.
And I apologize for being here.
No worries.
Peacemaker.
Borough Attorney is here at 6:35, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Is there any?
Would you like me to? Would you like me to give my report on the school meeting?
Well, why don't, no, it's open, it's public comment.
Okay, so let me.
The resident comment.
Okay.
My question is, are we going to be looking at lights? Are we going to be looking at artificial turf?
Are we looking at them? Yes.
Yes.
Has a decision been made? No.
Okay. The use of the field, I know that this town does not have a high school, therefore really no need for a football field. I don't understand why you need to play games at night when students that are K-8 really should be in bed when it's dark. That is a question that I have. Why do we have to light a field, and why do we have to play night games when all of our children in this town really need to be in bed earlier and not up late at night? Is there any reason why would older people be playing at that time, or why would lights be considered because of that?
There are some residents who want lights. Some residents want turf. Some residents want natural grass. Some residents look at a football field and see a soccer field, and we do have soccer. Some people want lacrosse. Some people want flag football, and that might be starting soon also. So there are a lot of constituents that we need to accommodate and consider, and that's the process that we're in now. We appreciate your comments, and your views are very clear. You've made them very clear. I'm not sure that they're all factually supported, but that's okay. Those are your views. And, thank you for your comments.
The other question that I have is, would anyone else be using this field other than Englewood Cliffs K-8 students?
I have pretty strong feelings on those fields being used only by Englewood Cliffs residents.
residents, so.
So that, you know, we have
Mayor,
students
if we
who
may,
are
I think
anticipated.
the borough attorney's gonna be commenting on a lot of that stuff.
All right, that's fine. So we have residents
We
who
are
are
public
older than
parks,
eighth
so,
grade.
you know, we,
I know we have residents older than 8th grade, but usually they either go to a private school, like Dwight Englewood, with beautiful fields. Horace Mann, I'm sure, has wonderful fields. And others around, and are actually, those that go to Dwight Morrow, they have fields. And sports, usually on a high school level,
I'll
are
jump in on that.
played at the high school itself. So, again, my question is, why would we need to have lights if our 9, 12 students are going to other schools, playing probably for those schools? Would they be playing on those fields regularly? And if so, what would they be playing?
I think Councilwoman Laura would like to comment.
Hi, first of all, I appreciate, and I know you went to the Board of Education meeting too and made a presentation, and it's great. I'm sorry you didn't attend the feasibility study meeting. We are going to be having more meetings. Just to let you know, everything is premature. While you're asking the questions, we don't have any answers yet. So right now, you know, your comments are great, and we'll take them, and that's what we're doing while we're meeting with all the professionals. And there are things that we are, and I'll let the borough attorney jump in regard to, we're a public park, so there are only certain things that we can do in regards to what your question is. And I will let the borough attorney jump in there, and then I'll finish up when she reports to you on that question.
Sure.
Yeah, the mayor and council will be, we originally thought that I would be done with some ordinances for tonight, but I'm not. So we expect probably next Tuesday at the special meeting to introduce sort of an omnibus ordinance that addresses our public parks. There are 4 public locations that it deals with, including Whitty Field, and it's going to establish regulations such as hours, dog walking, permits for use by groups, permits for use by preferably organized groups, you know, what type of insurance needs to be produced, an omnibus ordinance. And in addition, there's going to be fees set forth in the ordinance for issuance of permits, as well as for participating in recreation department activities. So we have all those, but now we're going to codify them all into one ordinance.
Just to clarify, there will be no fees for borough-run
Yeah, borough
recreational facilities.
Right, but where there's an organized sport or an organized team or an organized picnic or a family picnic, there's going to be a fee. And fees are generally are commensurate with the amount of administrative work and overhead that the borough might have. You don't make money from your citizens by the issuance of permits, but you do have to cover costs, so we try to make sure that those fees and permits are reasonable. And so I'm drafting that, which I hope to have to the council before the weekend, and it'll hopefully be first introduced on Tuesday.
Mike, I'm not quite clear, you said 4 parks. I know that there's
4
one in Irving.
places, right?
Right?
And
And does that include the one with the basketball courts there?
Whitty Field,
Whitty Field?
Irving Avenue, the one on Irving
On
Avenue,
Irving,
the
right.
basketball court, and
Right.
the Hudson Terrace tennis courts.
Oh, okay. Were they resurfaced recently?
No, they're not, but
Those
that's
that
all
have mushrooms.
recreational
Yeah.
facilities.
So the tennis courts are right behind the Lions Club, is that?
Correct.
Okay. So that is a public space also. I didn't know that. And it's in real disrepair, so that really needs to have attention, probably more urgently than in Whitty Field, because it is.
There are
probably
reasons for that right now, which,
disrepair. And the 4th is what?
I said.
Oh,
Basketball courts.
oh, the
Irving,
basketball.
yeah,
So-
Bayview Avenue basketball,
Got it,
Irving Avenue Park, Whitty,
right?
and Hudson Terrace, tennis courts.
Okay. And on the other place, which is, that's run by the Palisades Interstate Commission, the one,
they have their own
Right, that doesn't belong
ordinance.
in our.
no, but there's a park at the end of, on the other side of Palisades, it's named after the first mayor of town?
Allison.
Allison.
That's,
So that has,
that's not
has
us.
nothing to do.
Not us.
Okay, it's too bad. That park could be a nice recreational spot. Do we have any people working with the Palisades since it's in our town to maybe make some upgrades to that park and give people some more options?
It's not our park, we don't have any jurisdiction.
But it's in our town.
You can suggest.
No, that's Fort Lee.
Okay.
Allison Park is not in England. I thought it was Fort Lee.
No, Allison Park is
Allison
in
Park.
Englewood Cliffs.
We looked that up, it was, I thought it was on, we
The
went
first-
on the website, it was Palisades State Parkway, it's listed.
There's a little house there, right
Yes.
next to that's Englewood Cliffs.
And
It's right behind the gas station.
I know where that is, but we tried to go and find that for usage, and you have to do everything through Palisades State Parkway.
Okay. Well, it would be nice to then, if it is in our town, to have some sort of relationship with the
Sure.
Palisades Park Commission. Plus, if we had a little bit more influence with what goes on in the waterfront, that's a wonderful asset. That's actually in this town, so developing a working relationship with them. Certainly, we have Woody Field, which is a field, but there are also fields down there that also might be of use. My final comment in question is, I know that you said that turf is on the table, and I know that the borough engineer was a little, nonchalant about the dangers of turf. I mean, I'm very, very much concerned about turf. I have a sample, which I'll bring to the next meeting later, and I was joking at the board meeting, if any of you would like to, would you be willing to sprinkle that on your cornflakes in the morning? Tire crumbs are, they look very small, and they get into every place, and they have known carcinogens. There's a list of 4 or 5 that are in there. For a borough engineer, at this point, to recommend a turf field, I think is really out of order. And I think I would look to, consider finding another borough engineer, because obviously that borough engineer is not aware of the recent articles that have come out about turf and its carcinogenic nature. Comes from tire crumbs, and I really believe that any entity that would recommend that, and recommend that to a town to have children play on it, should be let go immediately. I think it's an affront to our children. I don't think any council member wants to put our children in the position of an increased risk of cancer. So I would appeal to you to take that off the table immediately.
Yeah, I read the email you wrote about that, and you basically accused us and our borough engineer of wanting to give our children cancer. So let me just
Well,
for the
basically,
record,
that's
let
what
me
it
just for the
is.
record say that no one here wants to see anyone get sick. Okay, if you're out of bounds when you write things like that, you proliferate them.
But if
That's
you're,
not
if
responsible.
you're considering
Well,
that,
and you missed the last meeting because we were talking about that issue, and rather than using crumb rubber, we're talking about using natural cork.
which is a lot more expensive.
Well, it is, but it's not rubber, okay? So we're trying to accommodate everyone. And on your points on the Palisade Interstate Park Commission, you also missed the last meeting where I reported that I had actually spoken to their director to connect us with those programs that they have for
Great.
trail hikes and other things that they can lead.
That's fantastic.
And we can participate in, and then we could have something in the spring of a service day where we go and we kind of get together and clean up the boat basin area or whatever. We do something together as a community, and then we eat pizza. I have to add anything with eating pizza. So, and we'll bring mushrooms and stuff. But we hear you, Mr. Di Gregorio, but
Are you
those
willing?
are your feelings, and I haven't seen anybody present any facts, and our borough engineer is really, he's a great guy, got a great reputable firm, they're professional. My children have played all sports for about 15 years on turf, okay? We don't eat it, again, it's not made to be eaten, we don't put it on our cornflakes, that's being dramatic.
So, but you're not categorically saying that turf is out of the question. You're saying it's.
I would like to
Why would I? Everything's open right now.
I think that the public would feel much more comfortable if you would say that.
I think our children would feel better to know that they have a place that's going to serve their needs in terms of being athletes and developing themselves as athletes in any sport that they want.
Europe does not allow turf.
I checked that actually, and in Germany and Munich, which you keep bringing up as examples, they have turf fields. And,
It's court.
well, they have turf fields, they have
Court.
synthetic grass fields.
We do have a chemist in town also that agrees with me. He knows quite a lot about this, much more than I will.
Okay, I'd just like to give an update, because at this point, the conversation is going into a direction that we're not there yet.
Good.
Hold on. I would like to, because that was the responsibility that was given to me, and I know the report is writing, so I want the facts to be out. And right now, like I said, I appreciate your comments, but until all the facts are out, there's no decisions. Right now, we are, and I really encourage you to watch that feasibility study meeting. It's online.
I will.
Okay, in defense of the borough engineer, what he stated was, given our situation of what we're facing and the amount of hours that are being played on that field, if you cannot decrease the amount of hours played on that field, you can never maintain natural grass, and you would have no alternative other than to use turf. That was what the borough engineer said. He did not say to categorically put turf. Never said that. That's not his job, and he would not do that. What he did was present facts. Those are facts.
Okay,
We have too much usage on that field.
I
So
understand.
I was directed by the mayor and council at that meeting to go and meet with Frank Petty
Okay.
and Jennifer Brown. And I did that yesterday with Richard Kesey.
Concerning what?
Concerning the fields, and asking if there was any type of a joint plan that we could come up with in their fixing their field and our fixing our field, and finding some sort of an idea that helps both of us. We're all one community. The kids are in this community. It's not like the kids only belong to the Board of Ed. They play on that field, they come to Johnson Field too, right?
Sure.
So we're all one. And I have to tell you something, it was an excellent meeting.
Good.
It was an excellent meeting. There were some really great ideas that came out of that meeting. I cannot disclose them right now in public because, Mr. Patty asked me, he wants to talk to his board first,
Right.
respectfully, and I totally understand that.
When did the meeting take place?
Yesterday.
Yes.
And I went with Richard Casey, our new recreation director. We walked to the property, and I'll have to ask the attorney, like I said, maybe, I don't know if we can talk about that in closed session or not. I was asked not to, disclose anything at this point because he needs to talk to the board. But what we are looking at is ways to reduce the hours of playing time on our field. And if we can accomplish that and find a meeting of the minds where grass can be maintained and stay
Understood.
healthy,
Mhm.
okay? And maybe, Little League has, because Little League is the ones that really have already disadvantaged with the amount of playing time that's required. So if you were only putting a cork turf field on the Little League portion of the field, then it doesn't affect anybody else other than Little League.
My next, just
And this is all preliminary.
one more
This is
clarity.
just-
How much
No.
would be, was the minimum proposal and the maximum
You know what,
proposal for Reedy
it's
Field?
so,
In that case.
it's,
So I know
and
it's
it's
in the
online.
millions. So
It's
how
online.
would the town finance the millions that would have to be going into these fields?
Everything's bonded, but it's not,
It's bonded.
it's, we're nowhere near where, I
Okay.
appreciate what you're saying.
And I would say also that spending millions on a field, there are other needs in town. I'm sure residents would appreciate having their own library. I know that sports are very important, but if we did think about expanding our thoughts, our outlook, and think more regarding library and educational things like that, that could really support the intellect of our young people, along with fields, that would be a good thing. If we spend everything on fields and bond everything on fields, we are certainly sending a certain message to our community that it might be more important that they're good at sports than at academics, and a place where they could spend it with the community and not going to Fort Lee, not going to Englewood. In addition, our own library would create more of a sense of community. One of the things that's really lacking is a center in town. And a library can provide that center. Even if we didn't belong to Buckles, we certainly could make good use of a library. Even the community center is underutilized, and it could make an ideal spot for having books and people going in and out and meeting one another and having programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Yes.
Lauren Eastwood, 4 Willow Drive. The discussion about Whitty Field and lights seems to be focused on people's belief that lights are to permit children to play baseball games at 10 o'clock. I live up by Whitty Field, and I see the parents trying to have soccer practice in the spring and the fall after work in the dark, because it gets dark early and there are no lights. We desperately need lights at Whitty Field for things like soccer practice in the fall, not for baseball at 10 o'clock at night, for the children to be able to use the fields and practice in the fall. And I live up there, and I support lights on the field.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Tom Hollowitz, 236 Fairview Avenue. Excuse me, I just came from the baseball practice. I couldn't agree more with the lady before me. I think lights, I just walked in on this gentleman's last statements. The town, to me, doesn't have a center for, a vibrant center for kids to hang out. I think there's no better place than Whitty Field, basketball courts, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, girls softball, people walking around the track. I grew up in Richfield. Every town around us has improvements. From Richfield, Fort Lee, Cliffside, Fairview. There's no reason why we couldn't give our kids the same advantage to having lights and turf. If not turf, lights and grass, something. But there's definitely needs an improvement to the. And I think that from my perspective, the baseball is growing more and more. It's getting more and more popular, winning more and more tournaments. School is really important. There's no doubt about it. I just drove past, Chairman Miss is not here. I just drove past Johnson Avenue, and I think it's going to affect 7 or 8 houses. Nothing against those people that's on Johnson Avenue, but for the betterment of 400 or 500 or 600 or how many people in town that are going to benefit from having a place to go, having a place to gather, knowing where your kids are on a Thursday or Friday night, shutting the lights off, coming to an agreement as to a cutoff time during the week and then maybe on the weekends. I just think this town is in desperate need of a place for our kids to hang out and have a great time, and I hope you guys vote that way. Thank you.
Yes.
Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue. I just want to say, I didn't think we were up to the point of talking about the field yet because we really haven't had a presentation. And I think this is just a lot of verbiage to fill space. And we should wait until we have the full presentation, look at it, study it, and then discuss it and stop continuously rehashing the same thing over and over and over again. I'm tired of hearing it, and I'm sure you are.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the public? Is there a motion to close the public portion?
Second.
Is there a motion to close the session?
Second.
All in favor?
Hold on.
Clerk, would you read the closed session?
People,
William moved.
I made a motion to go ahead.
Gloria?
Oh, I.
Resolution 1754, whereas NJSA 10:4-12 allows for a public body to go into closed session during a public meeting, and whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs will go into closed session for the following reason as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12, personnel and request for medical leave.
And added to that motion is discussion if necessary on the closed session minutes that are on the agenda for approval.
Well, thank you. We'll see everyone shortly.
I'm gonna, you know.
You have a motion to come out of closed session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hold on, did you mark for the record the manifesto? Okay, I didn't hear you then.
You know,
Okay.
so
Yeah, I think
what I'd like to
only
do now
to
is,
say it out loud so we can, yeah,
So it wasn't you.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
so what I'd like to do now is actually have a budget update from our finance committee chairperson, President Morrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, let me just get myself. Okay, some updates. I will tell everyone that, you will be receiving tomorrow the updated budget prep sheets. If you remember 2 months, it feels like 2 months, but it was, I think, February 1st meeting. Actually, we had our review, I think it was February 1st, right, of the budget prep sheet, and it was 98% done. I think construction and police were the only ones that were not in. I had every intention of having that ready today, but unfortunately, today, I received information from the auditor that totally threw me and the numbers off. So I will, and I have to thank Catherine for being with me today, spending the time, and the time that she spent Monday and Tuesday. We literally spent, it was from morning till night together, going through everything to make sure we'd be ready for today, and at the last minute, this came up. So, and Catherine, appreciate if I'm explaining anything wrong, please. I will not take any offense, just jump in and help me. Okay, so what we found out from the auditor, because we were trying to figure out, and you do this during the budget process as you're getting closer and closer to input all the numbers, you know, you find out per 100,000 how much it's going to be
Per 100,000 appropriation.
Right, per 100,000 appropriation. And when numbers were plugged in, the dollar amount that should have been attributed to it was off by $58. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. And the auditor was looking at everything, I was looking, CFO was looking, and we finally figured it out. So, I will explain this. As you can see, this is all handwritten notes. When we saw that the numbers weren't working, the first thing, he had informed me that we were off by, hold on. Our total assessment for the town for 2017 was off by $5,584,828, which came out to about $50 a house. So what we found out was, before we even had any numbers with our budget, we were starting with a 58, if you had no increase, if you had the exact same numbers as you did last year, we had a $58 increase per household, which is unheard of. I've never heard of anything like that before. The auditor has never heard of that.
What is the reason?
The reason is that our total assessment for the town went down $5,584,828. So when I heard that, my first instinct was to pull more data, okay? So I asked them to pull the data going back to 2013. and I'm gonna read it to you.
When you say total assessment, can you explain what that means?
I'm going there. So that little bit didn't make sense to me either. So I went back and I had them in conjunction with the CFO, pulling, it's called the tax duplicates, am I calling it right?
Yeah, the
Okay,
tax.
tax duplicates, anybody that knows anything about assessments for a town, there's tax duplicates. And what's on that is how many houses are residential, how much vacant land do we have, how much industrial, how much apartment buildings, how much commercial, by parcels and by value, okay? So when I heard the assessment go down, and obviously my background is in real estate too, I said, let me look at all these numbers. So, 2013, you may want to write some of this stuff down. 2013, we had commercial properties, 123 parcels, with a value of $926,889,700. Industrial, we had one parcel worth $1,675,000, and we had one apartment building of a value of $1,750,000, giving us a total of $930,314,700. 2014, commercial, we had 123 parcels. Our value went down to $884,930,300. Let me give you all the data first, because there's a
You
lot.
know what, I'm a little dyslexic with numbers, so I'll just email you.
Well, these are my work notes, so, because these are all draft work documents, and they're not.
Can I take a picture of it later then? That's easier.
No, I read, no.
Well, all right, let me,
Let me just,
Okay.
let's hear the point.
let me,
Yeah.
okay.
Here's the punchline.
Okay, so commercial went down to $884,930,300.
In what year?
2014.
14.
Industrial went to 0. Apartment, 1, same value, $1,750,000. Total value, $886,680,300. 2015. Commercial, 124 parcels, went down to $878,792,500. Industrial, 0. Apartment, 1 parcel, value $1,750,000. Total, $880,542,500. 2016, commercial, 125 parcels, value $871,371,200. Industrial, 0 parcels, apartment, save as 1, again, $1,750,000. Total, $873,121,000, I apologize, 200. 2017, went down again. Commercial, 126 parcels. We went down to $838,910,300. Industrial, 0 parcels. Apartment, 1 parcel valued at $1,750,000. Total, $840,660,300.
So
We went from 2016 to 2017, and what the auditor said, the 17 number has just come out. If something gets changed, it's out of our control. This is, just really new data. Our commercial value in the town went down $32,460,900 just from 16 to 17.
in 1 year.
In 1 year, which totally threw everything off. So here we're thinking this budget is one thing, our value is one thing, that the numbers are worth X. Doesn't work that way. The auditor said that he has never seen this type.
But the assessments are based on the tax appeals, right? So when a property owner...
The assessments should be, and I'm
No, I mean,
being
like-
respectful, the assessments should be based on what the true values are.
The market value.
Right, the
But-
tax appeals are what affect the assessment.
I understand that, but the point that I'm trying to make is the decrease from 16 to 17 happened because the commercial property owners, got their tax appeal and got their properties reassessed at the lower level.
Well, they
So
didn't get them
that's-
reassessed, they were overassessed.
Well, they were overassessed,
But-
hence their,
But if you're not overassessed, you're not gonna win your tax appeal. I mean, this is 6 and 1/2 a dozen of the other. The bottom line to this here is, it's impossible to budget properly with any type of a plan when your numbers are this out of whack. I gave you,
But what's the
hold on, from
reason?
2013, our commercial properties went from 930 million to a value of 840 million. I'm just rounding here, okay? And our residential in 2013 went from 2 billion, apologize for that, 2,427,207,400 to 2,485,809,000.
So the residential went up.
But the commercial went down
Okay.
more than the residential went up, okay? Data doesn't lie. When your numbers are going, okay, so residential went up, so next year they gotta go down when they appeal their taxes? But then they're not assessed properly. I'm just saying, hypothetically, for anyone to do a budget properly, you have to know with what you're working with. And these numbers, to say that your commercial numbers went from 930 million to 840 million, I mean,
That's a $19 million difference over the course of 5 years, and that's a significant difference.
So you're talking about having a reevaluation?
No, I'm not-
I'm
I'm not saying that, but I'm giving you data.
Because I think what it sounds like from the data, that if we do that, the residential portion of our town is going to get hammered.
No, we're not talking about that.
I'm not saying that. I don't want any politics here, I'm gonna say.
No, I'm not saying politics.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, this is not political, I'm giving you facts, and we need to sit here, okay, professionally, and understand and figure out what's going
But here we
on.
are, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay, right,
That's
okay.
nothing to do with politics.
I'm just saying, because
Well,
right away,
I'm
you're
not
not
saying
saying.
it's professional.
Well, hold on.
I don't understand.
So let's figure out how not to do that.
Okay.
No, I think that you're also limited by when you can do valuations.
What?
There's laws that talk about when you can do valuations.
Nobody's talking about
No, we're
a
not. We're
revaluation.
talking about
I mean,
having-
right away, nobody's talking about a revaluation.
No.
We're talking
You know,
about
I'm talking about that I've spent over 2 months in preparing a budget. When I get to the day that I'm gonna be giving it to you, right, the final populated, prep sheet, I find out that our valuation went down by an unheard of number. The auditor said he's never seen a number, you were
So-
Can I just, stop?
I have a question.
Okay, so
How
that's where we are.
Okay, but how was this discovered all of a sudden, like?
Well, they are ordered last year too.
No, but the valuations just, they came out. What are you talking
We
about?
just got that. So
The
I'd like to have
evaluation.
actually, Austin, I'd like to have Catherine actually.
Sure, let her.
Weigh in on this.
Please,
For everyone in
she
the
is-
audience who hasn't been introduced yet, this is Catherine Navarro-Steino. She's our new borough administrator. She had her first 2 days, coming into the 8 days. She timed it really well. To come here on our budget week. So, would you say the word?
Absolutely. In over the years that I've been writing budgets, I've never seen such a drastic drop in net valuation. Okay? So you have a drop of roughly, and I'm rounding, so don't hold me to the penny. You have a drop of 32 million in commercial properties from 16 to 17, and you have a rise in residential of 27 million. The differential between those two numbers is the 5 million that has now shifted that burden, okay, causing a $58 increase to the property owners that by far, even if we had a zero-based budget in this community, the taxpayers would still get an increase because of the adjustment. Every year, they adjust the valuation numbers, the net valuation numbers. So you're looking at an uncontrollable $58. Even if you came in at zero, all right, you would have still had to make up for it to be zero to your taxpayers, some form of a $58 cut. Okay? So
Right.
that's where you're at
That's
right
where-
now. And it's not something any one of you can control.
Right.
All right? And unfortunately, these numbers do come out because we're on a calendar year. They come out while you're already in your process. And to get that phone call today that we were so skewed off of this, it was shocking. In my career, I've never seen a drop like that, but after conferring with the auditor today, we're not the only community experiencing this.
I don't think it's.
But not,
Not
to
just
this-
us,
but not
right.
to this degree.
Not to this degree, but he did share, unknown communities, but
One,
he did
there was
say,
one.
we're not the only ones. A lot of us are experiencing it. But over my career, I've experienced where it's called the pendulum swinging, where commercial goes down, residential goes up. Residential goes up, down, commercial goes up. It happens. Anybody who's in property, that occurs. Unfortunately, it's shifting towards our residents, and
Right,
they're
but-
carrying
Okay.
that.
Our charts are showing that the commercials continually coming down.
Absolutely, I'm not denying that.
Right.
Over your history has been coming down. You lost it, the one industrial you had, that was a big loss,
Mhm.
a one loss.
Which one was that?
The breakout is commercial, industrial, and apartment that you
Which
just went over.
property?
I'm not certain which
But
property
you can't
that
go to
is.
zero on now, I mean, property's not more than zero.
No, industrial.
They moved
That
out.
was the one, the industrial?
Maybe
But I
it
mean,
got
the property's
The
not-
industrial
worth
used to
something.
be, Mary knows, the one by, not Fifth Street over there, where they used to make the film.
Oh, yeah.
Who,
Yeah.
They sold it and they're building,
Yeah, I know the building.
you still,
the end of Fifth Street.
yeah, right, I don't want to say anything, but.
But that'll still be worth something, I mean, so it might
No,
not be
it
industrial.
came off the
but-
bucks from industrial that went to, I believe, commercial.
Probably what shifted that commercial
It
one
went to
up.
commercial.
Right,
Yeah,
so if you see it,
That's what we
you
said.
had one shift over, but it still was, I don't think it bumped the number up in the commercial line as much as it was in the industrial line.
The problem for our residents, our taxpayers, are that they're paying for the tax appeals. So the town is incurring debt, and now they're getting hit with a $58 increase on top of the tax appeals that were refunded to everybody else. So it's like a,
Well, I think
Like
they just said
double
the
hit.
tax appeals really don't matter in this case, it's the property valuations.
but the property valuation is what caused,
That's what drove it.
that's what drove it
Well,
down.
the appeals are what drove it down.
Yes.
Right, but that's what Gloria said, and I thought you had said.
No, the valuations are artificially high, and then the appeals dropped
Right.
where we are now.
So, I know that we had asked Mr. Rago to come in here last year and talk to us. Can you tell, whatever happened with that? He was supposed to come here last year to give the council an update about where we stood with our assessed values. I personally think that this is something that we need to,
I'd like to see him there.
absolutely, and give us
Catherine, is that usual practice?
We can ask him to come in. If you're gonna discuss, open appeals, he might request to go into
what,
closed
just
session.
our assessments too.
All right.
overall.
Not any specific appeal.
Okay.
Not specific. Yeah. So, I mean, there's something that we have to be aware of that's happening. It's, obviously, the trend is going this way,
We can
down?
invite him for Tuesday.
No.
What's that?
And we've all got to work together and find whatever we feel as a group is the best solution to, I don't know how you could fix it, Catherine, but you should be able to.
You're a professional. Mr. Rego would be more attuned to advise you on something, so that would be.
But I wouldn't
Even
be-
I apologize, even your tax appeal attorney and things to that regard.
Yeah, I haven't given them any information yet.
Right,
We haven't had time.
so those are the individuals that would be more guided to advise you on that.
I would be out of my league on that.
Right.
I will say, from my experience across the state, and I do tax appeal work for other municipalities, I don't know about Englewood Cliffs, but many municipalities, because of the hurricane in 2012, had significant drops in significant increases in tax appeals because of the significant damage done to both residential and commercial properties. I don't know that Englewood Cliffs, but as a whole, there was, I mean, the courts had to even figure out special ways of handling Sandy victims, and that drop pretty much lasted. 2013 was the first year that they felt it, the tax drop. 14, 15, I mean, I think it's even went into 2016. Things around the state, I think, are stabilizing somewhat. So, but, you know, the large drop in 1 year, I can't explain, but over the course of 5 years, it's probably trending along with the rest of the state on valuation. I mean, it would be interesting to see how you compare to a statewide
We could ask the
comparison.
professionals to give us that information.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What was the drop the year before? I
Which
know,
one? Which year?
so going from 2015 to 16.
Okay, hold on. From 15 to 16, you went 7,420,000.
Okay, and then from 16 to 17?
16 to 17, you went,
That's
okay.
the large
Subtract 38 million from 71 million.
Thirty-two?
But those are just your commercial numbers, that
Yeah,
doesn't.
right. No, I understand.
Yeah,
Do we know, Carol,
Yeah.
how much of that drop is attributable to the appeals
All.
versus,
They're all
just
from-
general?
all from appeals. What's with the orders on? All from appeals.
I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. I think the whole drop, you're saying, is due to the appeals? I mean, shouldn't the
How else do you
appeals...
change the assessed value on a building?
But I mean, we didn't lose $32 million in 1 year on this few tax appeals we had.
Listen, this is off the,
That's what he gave us.
this is off the, what do you call
There's
these?
no other way to change these.
These are,
No, I follow you.
these are from the county.
Right, right.
I mean, I told you, I mean, I was
We
very
can double check, and we are
concerned.
actually.
I mean,
And we're gonna be looking into this.
Yeah, no, of course, I
But
understand.
these are, you pass these around, this is what is called a,
We get those every year, Ed.
But I'm saying,
Yeah,
do we,
pass them
but
around.
do we
This is
give, do we remember that much of a decrease in properties and all the tax appeals we
This
gave in
doesn't make
2016?
sense.
I don't remember that much.
maybe they were. There were some pretty hefty ones in
They
15
weren't
that did
settled until
16.
True.
Those big ones.
Sit over that,
That's what the duplicates look like. It was very hard to read, trust me.
You're not kidding.
Yeah.
You pay off these?
I did.
Need a magnifying.
You need a, yeah. So anyway, just to update on you, that's why I want to apologize that you don't have that other paperwork tonight. You will have it tomorrow. We worked very hard on this budget and putting it together. We actually, okay, into the budget, we're absorbing the 200,000 plus from the debt service of that 1,460,000 and that you were talking about. That was a 2015 settlement that we inherited into our 2016 budget. See, what happened was in 2015, when you guys, I'm sorry to say you guys, but when the 2015 administration passed those tax appeals, when you do a refunding bond ordinance, it's great that you do a refunding bond ordinance, but you don't make a payment in the year that you do a refunding bond ordinance. So you settle it, but what the council in 2015 should have done was to put something aside to plan for 2016, because that's when your payment is coming into play. But the
In
council...
2016, we should have done for 2017.
Well, we did.
Right,
We did, but we didn't know about that $1,460,000 refunding ordinance until after we were already a month into the new year. separate issue. But what I'm saying is, for this budget, there was a $200,000 plus payment from that refunding bond ordinance that was passed from 15 to 16. That's in debt service. Our tax appeal line was increased by $147,939. Our reserve for uncollected taxes, we went above what is statutorily required and put in $116,000, which is actually $316,000 over what was put in the year before. And the reason that you have to, jump in, Catherine, if I'm missing something, the reason that you have to increase it is because we did credits this year. And when you're doing credits, don't forget, we didn't take any debt on. We took no additional debt on for the first time that I'm aware of, that I've been here. You have to increase your uncollected reserve because you want to make sure that all adjustments were made properly to the books and that you have enough money in the bank to take care of that. But we actually incurred no additional debt for all those tax appeals made. On top of that, the terminal leave payments, it's over 200,000. I think it's around 220. I'm approximating now, but in the past they've always done emergency appropriations for the terminal leave. No, it's 188 plus a DPW portion, so it's around 220, 230. So there's no debt for that either. So the only debt we increased is about $9,000, which is a payment from the $1,460,000 refunding bond ordinance interest that we had heard. That's it. No additional debt this year. Now, any court judgments are come against us. We don't know about that now. That would happen maybe in May or later in the year. Different situation. But as of what we have right now, everything's being paid out of the budget. So it's something. What?
Novel and unique, right?
Novel and unique, and it's a good budget. But besides that, I want you to look at
It's a very conservative, fair, robust budget. It gets everybody what they need.
everybody what they need.
And, of course, department heads have to run their businesses or their departments within their budget, but
We're
highly confident that they can do that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go over capital with you quickly, and like I said, tomorrow, when you get these, I'm going to be asking for everybody's, I hope everybody's going to be supporting this. I've not heard from any of you, Councilman Aversa, Councilwoman O, in regards to anything you don't like about any of the papers you've received to date since February 1st. No one has emailed me or said, I don't like this, I don't agree with that, I want more here, I want less there. Haven't heard any of that.
What papers are we talking about?
The budget papers that we went through, all the budget papers. So,
You heard from me.
I heard from you, Councilman Park was
I heard
involved
too
in the
much.
hiring of, yeah.
You would say you heard too much from me.
No, I haven't heard too much. So, I ask that if you have anything to say, to please,
Did you say that we're getting a revised worksheet?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have any comments from the prior one?
You've got 90% of it you got already, and I haven't heard from either of you on any of that, so I'm assuming silence means you're in agreement with it, because it's been over a month.
Don't assume.
Well, listen, we have 5 days introduction, and that would not be fair to wait until the last day to submit any questions. I would hope that you've had since February 1st that you would be sending any of your questions over in an effort of trying to get a budget that we can all agree on, because that's what the purpose of this is, right? I hope that there will be no politics played with the voting of the budget. Other than that, capital. We met with all the departments, and I'm just going to give you an update on capital, because there's nothing in writing. Hold on. And I ran the numbers by Catherine. She advised what some of the numbers that Mark Neville had given, just to be sure that we have enough. Okay. Capital. Police. And I will ask Catherine to speak on this more. I know that everybody had questions about the lead and asbestos and the architect. And I know that there was... I know that there was some concerns about the numbers to put into the line item for lead and asbestos testing, which would be required if we're going to do lockers for the police department, which they desperately need, and the need for an architect of $50,000. So before I go forward, I'm going to let Catherine explain that portion, because she explained it to me, and I think it would be advantageous if she explained it to you guys.
Good evening. The council president and the chief were gracious enough to give me a tour of the police department facility. I like to see what I'm reviewing. This matter was brought up. I do know that there was concerns because I did read about it. One of the issues is that there is a suspicion over there, and once we have a suspicion, we really need, as the employer, to investigate it. But the problem is that if you only budget for investigation, you will wind up doing some type of an amendment later if it turns out to be truly an asbestos or lead issue, because you will definitely have to abate that immediately. Okay, so the issue is now you take a sample, now you're breaching that area, you take a sample, and if it comes back positive, that's a workspace that runs 24 hours. We have to abate that, maybe even relocate staff, so that's going to be an expense if we have to pull the officers out of their locker room and make accommodations elsewhere. Additionally, that may be way too conservative, because you also have to involve an architect. It's a public assembly building, we're a government, and we have to use an architect. We're not permitted to use an engineer to decide certain things on public assembly buildings. So unfortunately, because of the requirements, we are obligated to bring in an architect. So we'll have to go out, get some quotes from architects, unless there's a recommendation and we appoint based on, the unfair practice, in order to proceed expeditiously and get that advice going forward with the locker room. There's a possibility there may need to be a movement of the wall. So we want to make certain that we're not pulling something down that may jeopardize the integrity of the building as well. And by removing walls, you always wind up with older buildings finding something that is unknown. So I would say that the number that you're using is extremely conservative, not actually high. Abatement of asbestos is extremely expensive.
What's the number we're doing again?
The 30,000.
That's just for the study, though.
Right,
That's not for the actual work that may or may not be done.
No, that was,
That's just a study.
Right.
Right,
So
that's bring an
that's what
architect
I
in.
said before at the budget meeting, is that I feel that we're spending all this money on study after study, but maybe we should take a bid on how much the study costs, because I personally don't think it's gonna cost $30,000 to do an asbestos study.
no one said it was going to cost $30,000. We said we were going to put $30,000 in that line item. You can, apparently, there's a statutory number, or Andy said this, you have to multiply by a certain number per square foot if there is asbestos. This is not a number that was just taken out of a hat and picked 30,000. So that number came from, I think, worst case scenario, multiplying. Mark, were you there for that conversation when he talked about the multiplication?
No.
Okay. So no one ever said that the study is going to cost $30,000. If that's what you understood then.
But isn't that what
was
you're
right.
budgeting for the study?
We're just putting a line for lead asbestos of $30,000.
For the
Period.
study,
No,
not for
just
remediation.
Remediation's gonna cost so much
not-
more money.
not for.
Right.
And that's what I just said. You're
Right, that's
you're
what,
on
right,
record.
that's
I'm not
what
calling
I'm
it study.
stating it. Were you stating it?
You want to put more than 30, then tell me to put more.
No, we're just
I'm not
clarifying
calling it study.
information. So you're saying that it's going to cost you want to put $30,000
In a line
on the
called
item,
lead
right?
asbestos.
For study and
No,
remediation,
just
or-
for lead asbestos, period.
For what purpose?
We're not there yet.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna put aside $30,000, we have to know what that money is,
That's
put
not for me to
aside for.
determine. I'm just putting what I was told by the professional to put in that line. If you think you need to put more in that line,
Well, if you
I mean, I don't know why you're not getting this. This is real simple.
If you earmark it for the architect to come in,
The architect
and
was
the-
50, and this is 30.
Well, the architects at, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So there are two line items. One is
So it's-
architect up to 50.
Okay.
Up to 50, it's not,
And
it's not
lead and
sufficient.
asbestos is up
30.
to 30. And what you're saying is, those two combined are, the architect is for actual looking
Wait, I
at
have
it.
a question. We do the study and then there's asbestos, right?
Mhm.
Then what? We didn't put in a line item for possible asbestos removal or
Right, your
There's
remediation,
extra
right?
money, there's a contingency line that well, I'm not there yet, so, yeah, we're,
Well, I think that was the missing part, but I
Okay,
kept
right.
asking, like, okay,
There- so
30,000
I know,
is
but
study, but.
You can't just put 30,000 lead, that doesn't mean anything. What are we, or 30,000?
you can call it, you guys are ahead of me, I'm just giving you things that we have on the table that we need to address. You can call it whatever you want, the subject matter is lead asbestos and an architect. Call it what you want, put whatever you want, these are things we have to address. But your original of let's put $5,000 is not sufficient, because it would not be enough if we had to test the whole
Okay,
building.
but I
That's all I'm saying.
never said let's put $5,000. What I said was it was gonna cost probably less than $30 to do an asbestos
We
study.
just back up, because everybody's losing perspective
The
here.
losing
The
perspective.
whole
yes.
purpose of this drill is that the locker room right now at the police department, you see the chief back there, is in deplorable condition.
Absolutely.
We're trying to go from here to here. But to go to here, we need to do a few things, okay?
That's
And-
right.
And one of the things we need to do is test for lead and asbestos,
And you need an architect.
and an architect, because it's a public building.
That's right.
Public
We're
assembly.
learning so much.
Right.
And that's what we're doing.
That's all.
It's
That's it.
nothing more
It's
than that.
nothing-
It might come in a lot less than that.
That's right. We're going to obviously try and get it at the best numbers possible, but
If
we
I
need to budget.
If you put $30,000 in there for the investigation, okay, and it comes back positive, we're going to have to fund for remediation.
Right.
All right? So, but then, at the same moment, you're still going to need to deal with that positive, all right? And that's where we could charge some of that too, in the case of encapsulating whatever and protecting our staff, plus we have our meetings here.
Right.
We're talking, you know,
No, I want to do things correctly, and my point of this whole, what I'm trying to get at is, I think we can, like you said, specifically write the line item as possible remediation, asbestos study. Maybe we keep the study number lower and put in another line item for possible remediation. This way, it's kind
When
of
you
correct
write-
as opposed to, when you're just saying put anything. You can't put just anything.
I didn't say that, Councilwoman, respectfully, please, and I understand that I'm trying to help you to understand how this works. When you write specs, you have to make them you have to be as vague as possible, because the more specific you are, and you can keep looking at her, but I've done this enough to know on specs, the more specific you are, you can't use it for something else. Am I correct?
correct.
Thank you
And
for
what
that.
you would do...
Okay, that would lock us into not being able to do it. You need to be vague.
Okay.
Let Lizette can explain.
Ellen,
Yeah.
for instance, when we do our bond ordinances, we don't get that specific.
Thank you.
Because a year later, we may be able to use that money in something that's related to it.
To it, but not exact.
Because the bond, and I'll email you one tomorrow so you could see how it's broken down. I'm trying to think of an example, like with something having to do with sewers. It may say sewer repairs, but we may need the tops to the sewers, and it's related to sewer repairs. So the following
Or
year.
the computer.
Right, or the
Purchase of the
computers.
computer. We didn't say which department.
Yeah, we didn't
but
say
just
which
put a bulk number,
department.
and then everybody was
You know,
fighting
it's
for that.
it's called IT upgrades. So with IT upgrades, if I have to buy mouse pads or the mouse itself, I'm able to take it out of that line because the description is not that specific.
But I think she asked for $75,000 the one time or $50,000 for IT upgrades, and then if we followed what you're saying, oh my God, that's a lot, don't put that much, you'll never use it for IT upgrades, then she couldn't, if we were more
So
specific,
with
then
IT
she couldn't
upgrades,
use it to
she's
the
right, so with
advantage.
IT upgrades, I'm able to buy certain programs, I'm able to buy computers, I'm able to buy the mouse, because it all falls under that. If it was specific and it said $75,000 worth of computers, That's it. I could only buy computers. So what she's trying to say is, you can't put, she's not putting in the line of a study. It's just gonna be general, so whatever bills come in related to that situation.
To that subject.
We're able to pay off of that. That's what Carol's trying to explain.
Yeah, if I might interject. Yes, this is all very true, generalizing and benigning ordinances. I'd like to point out that anything that goes against a benign ordinance must have a 5-year value. So a mouse may not necessarily.
Well, she was just-
I just want to make that clear, that,
Correct.
you know, but the reality is that it is common practice to have a generalized ordinance, especially for like public works, where you have emergency sewer repair, so that there's a revolving area, not that we're declaring emergency every time a sewer line breaks. But the reality is, what also is charged against here is, we would wind up with a DEP permit fee. There's all ancillary contingency costs that would go against this. And anything that might go over it, you're gonna take an estimate from someone if you have to abate it. Let's say you put 600,000 in that line item. We all know what occurs when you do projects, and you do it on a guesstimate. If it comes in at 610 and you have 10,000 left in this line item, then you can utilize that funding, because you're clear that it has to do with this particular abatement in a public building. Because if something was to occur and something came in lower and there was a problem, say, in the fire department, we could address it. Let's just say, I'm just giving it as an example.
Because Lizette and I ran into something last year where we had leftover monies in certain ordinances, and we wanted to utilize something having to do with that subject, because that ordinance was written so specifically, we couldn't use it. We had to cancel it. Had it been vaguer, we could have just written it against that ordinance, and we have to get approval from bond counsel before we can write anything when it's specific and may not meet the criteria.
Okay,
That's
so-
the issue.
Okay, that's fine, but then maybe 30,000, and this is, I'm just, is not enough if the line item is just one big item, right? So these are things that we need to discuss rather than, I feel like.
Well, you can do it as a
Here,
separate
so-
ordinance. You can do it as a
Do that
separate
separate.
ordinance if you want, not in a general purpose ordinance. You can do it as a standalone ordinance, it'll cost you a little bit more, because remember, an ordinance has got to absorb its costs too, all right? You're gonna have, cost of advertisement, what absorbs, and so be it in the writing of the ordinance.
Right.
So right there, you just lost 2,030, all right? But you can have it as a standalone ordinance, and then if it is something that needs to be abated and funded further, you just can raise that ordinance. You can amend that particular bond ordinance and make it a new bond ordinance.
This
You're
is just a
funding,
starting point.
you're funding it further,
Right.
all right?
Catherine, you comfortable with this? On the 30,000?
I'm comfortable as the investigation.
Right.
That's what I'm comfortable with.
Let's move on.
We can always vacate money that's not used.
Right. Okay, all right, so the next was, I met with the chief, and he had, I totally support this. There were signboards that he needed. We went over the locations. There were 8, they're called crossing signs, and 4 radar signs. I asked him if that was enough, and he said that that would be sufficient. So that's 12 new signs, and they light up and they let you know, slow down, and at the specific intersections of where he felt that they would be best served. So that's a total of $42,000. The chief also had a request for a machine that he needed, a piece of equipment. He gave me that number. That comes in at $16,000. Am I allowed to have any machine? Yeah?
A little more, it's 18,
Okay.
18.8 for a 10-year warranty, but it's not written in stone yet.
Is the 10-year warranty, can you write that into the capital?
As long as it's with the initial
Okay.
purchase, yeah.
So I'll just put 20.
Okay.
Okay, for that machine, and there's also, I don't have the price for this first, Mark, you have to work with me on this, and Catherine tomorrow. There's a wall removal that price with the lockers, does not, I showed it to Catherine, it does not include the renovation of the other side.
Okay.
And when there's a wall removal, so tomorrow you're gonna have to,
Sure.
because I gotta get them the numbers for that,
Okay.
for the other side. Chief, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you want to put the lockers on the other side, that amount is not put into this number yet, so it would not.
Okay.
And I also had asked I think it was Officer Romney's today, he had been working on the lockers, that's a 2-year-old number. So we want to have the most recent number to have in here, because $75,000 was put in 2 years ago, he's getting us an update, so I need that also. DPW, the roads, the curbs, is between, I put 350, Mark is assuring me that that's a very safe number with curbs on the streets that I gave you the copies of at the meeting 2 weeks ago. The chief also requested 2 signboards, the different kind of signboards, those, the ones you can pull with a trailer. That's, I just put, again, a safe number of 20,000. Catherine changed your number, Mark, for the public bathroom in the lobby of the police department. We changed it from 18 to 25. Those bathrooms need to be upgraded to be handicap accessible. So she thinks that the number for the 50 that we put in here for the architects will cover that portion as well.
Yeah, I think you should conclusively look at the bills and get your money out of him while he's here, don't go.
Because we're upgrading a bathroom in a public building, he's gonna have to look at that there also. Okay, ADA. Okay, so, we put 25 for that. There was, gave you the list for the seniors, items that Mark had listed was a total of 16,000. Community building, 1,800. There's a submersible camera that Mark needs, $10,000, and Catherine, you felt the...
Yeah, this is the sewer camera, and
Yeah.
it's really important, and it's also helpful for our residents and stuff, for the sewer backups and things of that regard. It's an item that every public works really does need to have. It also is important for us for when we're paving roads and things to that regard. We can look at the integrity of the infrastructure before we go and put money on top of the roadway. Let's make certain everything is looking good underneath, and him having this camera, he's able to do it himself, so it's a great investment.
DPW vehicles, there were 2, it's on the list you got also, that's a total of $137,000. And there was something on there that we had not spoken about the last time. I actually didn't know what it was. Catherine did. I'll let her explain this too, but she said we definitely should include this. It's called an asphalt hot box, and that's $45,000. And Catherine, do you want to?
Yeah, asphalt hot boxes, Mark, jump in at any time, I don't fill potholes. But the reality is that it gives us the opportunity without the mixed cooling, it gives you a longer period. And if you keep your millings, if we have a safe area that's permissible to keep the millings from the roads, we can use it in the hot box without having to go out and buy more material. So when we're, if he keeps a pothole list, we do our paving, we don't let the contractor take that, we recoup it and able to use it in our hot box and fill potholes or curb areas, driveways on the public buildings. You know, it serves a great opportunity. If a neighboring town, I know in one of my communities where a neighboring town didn't have one, we allowed them to have a little share so that we could use one of their piece of equipment, or we rented it to them as long as they were in the joint insurance fund. And, you know, with an understanding of a quid pro quo for our public works department. So I do recommend it. I know it's a high-ticket item, but you're going to get your return on it, because once the asphalt gets cold, it's useless to our public works department. Was I fun?
No, yeah.
Okay. Wait, I had more. Hold on a second. Sorry, Jen. Okay, I'll go in the fifth again. Okay. So all of this will come under the $50,000 down payment that we spoke about. On top of that, it's my recommendation that we put an additional $50,000 into the capital improvement line. So instead of 50, the numbers you'll be receiving tomorrow will reflect 100. There are many different projects that we're talking about. While I understand that we have not come to any discussion, agreement, approval, if we don't properly fund our capital ordinance line, we can do no work. And, just because it's there doesn't mean it has to be spent. It can not be spent and stay right where it is and be there for next year. But I do recommend, given all the conversations we're having about all these different projects, we put that money in there. The last thing I want to just update you on is, in working with Richard, this is something new that's going into the budget also. It's called, and I spoke to Ann very quickly about this, we're trying to get this done. What we found during our interview process for recreation director, the majority of these towns use something called Community Pass. And I'm going to let William speak on this, if you're okay to jump in there. It would help our recreation community events department catch up to where everybody else is right now, and any costs that are involved obviously would go in. They go into the registration fees. So if you could help out, and it's first year $6,000, and every year after that it was.
It's an online system where we can put events and have people enroll online. There's a upfront fee and a recurring fee. We negotiated initially. They gave us 1,000 free. Included in the price was 1,000 transactions. We thought, from talking to Richard and looking at our usage for all the various recreation activities, that 1,000 would be enough. But we negotiated and we asked for 2,000. 2,500 actually. They increased it to 2,500. So the total, the one-time fee is $3,250, and then on an annual basis,
$3,250.
$3,250.
Yeah, the one time, yeah.
Yep. And then on an ongoing basis, it'll be $2,800 on an annual basis after that. We'll be able to get our community events out to the community. They'll be able to see it posted there. It's all going to be in one central depository. It's also a POS system because they can run the transaction right there, take the credit card, etc., rather than us having a lot of our residents come bring checks over to Borough Hall. It's just kind of getting us.
Ridgewood's had that for years.
Yeah, well, that's where they're from. Yeah. And that's them, yeah.
They're servicing 137 towns, I believe, in New Jersey right now. They're based up in Ridgewood. Yeah. It seems like a very reputable company in this industry.
The good thing with this that we like so much is it doesn't have to only be used for paying with credit card online. Let's say we're doing the Easter egg hunt, and we tell everyone to just go register online because we want a head count of how many people are coming. You can plan better for your events.
It's a program.
It's nice.
They don't charge per transaction either. It's like you just, like you said,
they do charge.
So if we go over 2,500 as a fee, is that?
That's a pass-through, transaction fee, and we can. It's an open platform, so we can pick who we want to do the merchant services for us. So that can be bidded out.
So that's as far as the payment goes?
Payment goes, so it'll be like 3%.
But that company doesn't charge us, it's just a flat fee, right?
Just a flat fee, sorry, yeah. No. So does anybody have any questions about this? Because if the attorney says, okay, we would like to start this, he got the bids that were required. It's in the budget. We've made preparation for this in the budget this year.
I think we should always be allowed, in fees for whatever programs you're doing, you can always add a few dollars, right?
Oh, of course, absolutely, without a doubt.
Somebody could easily cover the cost of the program.
Without a doubt. It's not going to be costing the borough.
That's right.
When do you want to start that?
There's a 6-week setup fee from start to finish, so as soon as possible.
Okay. So the legal question is, do we have to do a public bid for this? And it sounds like a specialized type of service that we don't have to do a public bid for. And in addition, it's rough. I mean, the public bid threshold for towns like you that do not have a qualified purchasing agent, which I assume you want. Okay.
17.5.
It's 17.5. So anything under that, all we have to do is obtain quotes So it seems to me that we
And
don't
the other
need to
quote
do a
was
public
much, much higher.
I asked for a quote, right, we have to.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we
we're done.
followed what we need to do, so.
I didn't let him do anything, I wanted to tell the council we were supposed to bring it up at the last meeting and, you know, we forgot.
So really what you're talking about is a resolution
Pass this around to everyone.
authorizing that vendor and with the parameters to be set in a contract, similar to what we're doing with the 5K guy tonight, which is on the agenda.
That's why that
Okay.
was such a success. I mean, more than half of our registrants came from online paying with credit cards.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Right.
I mean, it was just so easy.
My thinking is we'll have a resolution for that.
You know what they
Community
do?
Pass service, wait 1 second, on Tuesday's special meeting agenda. Perhaps we can get that in there.
For what?
On Tuesday. For what? You need a resolution for that.
For what?
Community pass.
The community pass vendor. You want to do it now?
I would like to
Yes,
ask the
let's do it
council
now.
if they're okay with us to do it now. There's nothing to.
Okay, so that's a resolution you want to add.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be,
The name.
It's right here.
it'll be resolution 62. So can we say authorize mayor
What-
to sign, agreement?
As reviewed and revised by the borough attorney.
You'll do that, but
Community pass.
authorize mayor to sign agreement with, what is it?
Community pass.
Community pass.
Oh, that's the name of the
Yeah.
vendor?
Yes, I sent this to you.
And then you could do the rest, but I wanna, is that all right with you?
That's fine.
All right. Well,
Let's get over to the regular meeting.
4 minutes.
We have a motion to.
Thank you. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.